Number 12, and I'm sure a lot of teams, not teams, fans of this team are a little on the fence about this. Bo Nix. We had 6 first round quarterbacks go in the top 12. So half of the top 12 picks were quarterbacks. I think once Penix went at 8 and McCarthy went at 10, it was kind of like there's no doubt that Nix is going 12 because the Broncos don't have a second round pick. Sean Payton, I find it very hard to believe, is going into the season with Zach Wilson and Jared Stidham. He dealt last year with Russ, and I'm sure this was his way of telling ownership, like, listen, I tried it with your guy. It ain't work. I'm not trading up, not getting rid of capital. If he's there at 12, I'm going to take him. Because I don't know if the Raiders were in love with Nix, but at the same time, I do think they would have taken Penix, which means to me that they're not sold on Minshew or Aiden O'Connell being their starter this year. So it's almost like you don't have a second round pick. You got a third. He's definitely not going to make it to the third. You kind of have to take this pick. And what I will say is, though, when we did all those mock drafts for the Broncos, they were always super hard to pick for because it's like, what do you do? Like, what actually makes an impact on your team? I know there's a lot to do with them, and I'm just rambling now, but it's like this kind of seemed like, even though it's probably not the best value, like this was kind of maybe the only pick they can make.
No, and what I'll say is too, how about I even throw a kind of a wild card here? I wouldn't be surprised if they just same concept because like what we're saying, they're not going to immediately be winning a lot of games. That's just they have a lot of work to do. Wouldn't be too shocked to see them just roll out Stidham next year again for majority of the season. You let Nick soak up that knowledge, learn, get used to the system. We've seen it's a recipe of success, and then get him out there next year when you build up more assets, get more around him. I wouldn't be shocked if that's the route they decide to go, even though that they took him this early, because they have so much building to do, and that's the bottom line.
No, I agree. I mean, I think that's the value too of having the first round pick is they have 5 years on a rookie deal. And this is a long-term play for Sean Payton. I don't think they're going to throw him to the fire. And honestly, bro, I wouldn't be surprised if Zach Wilson is the starter. Like,
This season, especially like we're saying, if losing is technically better than winning in the immediate right now to build those assets, like
yeah. I mean, I think Stidham will probably end up being the starter, but it's like they didn't just trade for Zach Wilson to have him on the roster. Like, they obviously see something in him. And like, if they're going to be developing Bo Nix and Zach Wilson, like, those are two like kind of good bets to have. Like, I do like the pick for them. I will say this. They need to improve the O-line, and they need to improve their wide receivers because Cortland Sutton and Tim Patrick are just not what's really built for success. And that's also why I thought they were a player for Brock Bowers, maybe. But I
yeah,
just
they're
think,
just not
yeah,
healthy enough. If they could stay
no.
healthy, that's a fine duo, but it's just they just can't stay healthy.
So, I mean, okay, realistically, Dobbs, what do you think this year looks like for Bo Nix? Like, do you think he starts half the games? Do you think he sits the whole year? Where are you kind of lying with this?
I would lean towards at least halfway. I could see anywhere past halfway, but
Okay.
if they sat him the whole season, I would have no issue with it, and I would say it was a great play.
I
I know
on it.
Broncos fans don't want to hear that, but again, it's
Yeah.
about the long term. If you always want short-term gratification as an NFL fan, you're very likely not going to see a lot of success because you have to go through the patches to build up to a point where you can actually start building long-term success.
This is honestly, in my opinion, outside of the Vikings, the best place for Bo Nix. I think he fits a Sean Payton offense
I
very,
think
very
he no, I
well.
think it just is straight up the best place. I gotta be honest, bro.
You think you would take this over the Vikings?
Honestly, yes, because the way Sean Payton, I've already seen him work with the smaller QB, the legend himself, and I know Drew is different than Bo Nix, but you get my
But
point. I
but
just
they're
think that Bo
kind
Nix in
of
this offense,
similar quarterbacks, though.
that no, then the more you watch him, trust me, especially if you were a Breeze homer, like you're saying to yourself, I can see why Sean Payton wants this guy.
I'll make the argument too. Nix is more mobile than Drew. Like, people don't give credit to Nix for
Way
how
more mobile.
good he is with his legs. Like, I could be wrong, and I could be talking about the completely wrong player, but I think Nix was like he picked up the most like first downs on like third down with his legs out of any quarterback in the league in college football.
I
So
wouldn't be surprised. I saw him do it a bunch of times on tape, and he rolls that pocket whenever he has to, and he is much more athletic than he gets credit for.
good pick by the Broncos. Well, I shouldn't say good pick. I'll say interesting, hopefully good pick for the Broncos.